Emperor, we come for you. We come for you.
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
Long live the fighters!
So now I got to figure out. I'm trying to see. You get a new computer and everything is like not exact. You think everything is right where it should be, and then it's not. And
words cannot
that's
express
where I'm
the
at
joy
right now.
I have right now watching you flail with technology, because this is like candy for me. You are like the Skynet guy, and so if there's a new gadget, Lucy's got it. So we got a new computer, and I called this last week. I said, you're gonna be fiddle farting around and not knowing
Yeah.
where stuff's at, and it's all new,
Yeah.
and I'm just gonna sit back here and eat it up.
So I have two monitors. I've got my laptop monitor over here, and then I've got my main gorgeous monitor over here. And normally everything is on this monitor. And then just now, as I'm hitting record, it's all over on the other monitor. I'm like, whoa, throw me a curveball here.
Wait. Time out.
Yeah, what?
You only have two monitors?
Yeah, but my main monitor is like the size of
64 inches.
Yes.
You know?
So yeah, let's just be honest with how this is all working here.
Soon and very soon, Lucy's gonna have one of those reclining chairs.
Yeah.
And it's just gonna be projected onto the ceiling so that it can work.
Well, we are back for another episode of the Fusion Underground. I've got the, this season it's been trying because the numbering for this season has been completely foobarred from the word go. Can I just say that? Yeah. So
you can say that. Actually, everybody already knows that.
Okay.
But I'm glad you because I've had a number of people go, wait, what episode are you guys on?
Right. We don't know. We have no idea.
Yeah.
we do not know. At least I don't know. I mean,
We're in
you probably
season
know.
3, episode
Something. X plus 1.
Episode November 14th recording.
So yeah, I don't even know. Yeah. Like when I was uploading the last episode, I said it was episode, I think I said 4. I was completely wrong.
Yeah, you were off.
Wrong. I was off. It was really,
but it was
3,
cute.
right? It was really 3. And by that point, by the time I noticed it, I was like, well, shit, it's already up on Anchor. It's too late to change it now. Let's just keep going.
Well, what would you have changed it? I mean, how are you going to, you were ahead in what you said. You can't go back. You're not going to go back and edit what we said in the recording. It's, you know what? It's okay.
It is what it is. So,
anybody out there questioning the validity of college education, please consult with Dr. Manuel Ramirez.
This is what you get. This is what,
this is
80,
right
90,000 grand gets you. Yeah. How's that? How's that for
yeah, okay.
Shit. All right. Well, here at the Fusion Underground, what we try to do
is make sense of the world.
Yes. We try to make sense of the world by having principled discussions about such topics as entertainment, current events, politics, and culture. Our mission is to educate people to become critical thinkers so they can live more empowered and happier lives. I'm your host, Manuel Ramirez, and I'm joined as always in the virtual studio by my lovely, wonderful co-host, Jason Moret. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good, brother. I think we should change our intro to make sense of the world and talking about politics and counting.
And counting.
Forget culture. Just counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's as far as I go.
Yeah. So as always, you can find all of our stuff on our website at fusionunderground.net. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/azfusionunderground. I would say that we're on Twitter, but we are currently not on Twitter at the moment. I haven't been on Twitter in going on 2 weeks now.
Yep. Cancel
So-
culture is alive and growing
Oh,
and booming.
And last episode, Facebook almost put us in the doghouse.
Yeah. For
Facebook
Why?
almost
We
put us in the
talked
doghouse.
about
Because we talked about election fraud, we got flagged on Facebook. I'm not sure if they actually listened to it, had an algorithm listen to it, or if it was just because it was in the description of the episode. But a few people had shared the post.
mhm.
And of course, I go out there and I like it whenever I see that people have shared it. I like their share. And when I tried liking it, I couldn't do it.
Wow.
And then somebody told me, yeah, they were trying to share the post, but then Facebook put a big disclaimer on there saying, don't get all of your election information. I don't know. It was like, they're talking about election fraud. So yeah, we were being, censored, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
in a manner of speaking.
And little did we know. See, we said I think even in last episode that we're like, well, we've only got about 4 or 5 listeners, so I don't think they're clued into us yet. But
right. They're clued in. They're getting clued in.
They're getting pretty clued in. So
they're getting really clued in. Yeah.
Soon and very soon, you'll only be able to catch our show. Well, probably on BitChute or somewhere else. Maybe the podcast sites seem to be fairly open right now.
Yeah, that seems to be fine. Yeah. It may get to a point, and who knows, I don't know, may get to a point where we can't put anything on YouTube either. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens.
But no worries.
I'm not changing.
Our Twitter
anything.
aficionados, I think I'm going to start a Parlor account for us.
That would be awesome.
I think we'll just do that.
I'm on Parlor.
Okay.
Yeah, you
So
can find me on Parlor.
I'll get there, and we'll find other alternatives.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna go quietly into a night. More like kicking and screaming, and then nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be taken without the gates.
Yes. Back to the gulag with you.
Yep.
So yeah, I have something. So I don't have a funny. I don't have a palate cleanser. Well, I guess in a way I do. So
that's slightly terrifying. That means you're going to show me something that's going to upset me.
So this was a story that was published this week. Yeah, this last week, November 10th, from the New York Post. Now I have to make sure I have this set up just right so that I can see your reaction while are you drinking wine?
I am.
Who are you and what have you done with Jason?
I got Coors Light in the fridge. If you know, actually, I had a
you had to ruin it.
Somebody I work with actually said that they really appreciated all the work that I do and all the effort I put in, and brought me a bottle of wine to say thanks. So,
well, that was nice.
I've been waiting for an opportunity to have a good red, because I didn't make anything recently that a good red pairs with, and I did tonight. So I opened it up, and it's quite delicious.
What is it?
No idea.
Does it start with Boone's and end with Farm?
No, you turd. I have just a little bit of class.
Well, I just wanted to check. All right. Is it a Pinot Noir? Is it a Malbec? Is it
no, this is actually a it's a Shiraz. No, it's a Shiraz, but it's a very dry Shiraz. Actually, I was it's a little bit more. I'd normally drink a Pinot Noir. That's my preference.
Huh? High in tannins.
Okay.
That's what makes it dry.
Hey, yeah, see that?
You uncultured louse, you swine.
Yeah, baby. It ain't no dang Merlot there, big guy. Yeah, it's I normally like a Pinot Noir. That's my go-to.
I like Pinot Noir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't mind a Sauvignon if I feel a little bit like I want a Cabernet, but
I'm not, Cabernet
Sauvignon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a Sauvignon Blanc. You
Yeah.
uncultured swine.
Yeah.
You. Back at you.
But I do like the Malbec. I like blends too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not commenting on blends. That's okay.
All right. Well, screw you then. So
That's fine.
back to this article before you so rudely interrupted with your glass of wine.
All I did was take a drink. You turd nugget.
All right. The title of this is from the New York Post just a few days ago. The title of the article is "Millions of Women Don't Know Where Their Own Vagina is Located."
Okay.
Yeah. So let's kind of walk through this and let's talk about this because this is interesting, right? Because I'm like, wait a minute, millions of women don't
I'm
know
not
where
sure
their own vagina
where
is
you
located.
lost it.
Yeah. Yeah. Did
Oh
you
my God, I
misplace
lost
it?
it.
Did you?
Where'd it go?
Did it wander off?
I have
Did
it. It's in my other pants. You know.
Yeah.
I left it in my other pantsuit.
Yeah. So this is how it starts. It says, "Ladies, it might be time to take a long, hard look in the mirror and ask, what is that? An estimated 1/4 of U.S. women don't know where their vagina is, according to a new poll conducted by OnePoll." Can we just hold on? Can can we just take a moment to appreciate the people who conducted this poll? Their name is OnePoll, and we're talking about vaginas.
I'd like to take a moment to point out that no time ever could any man get away with saying something like,
Right.
dudes, it might be time to look in the mirror and say, what is that?
I'm
Just
pretty
an
sure,
observation of sexual differences, not a disparaging comment in any way. But
I'm pretty sure 100% of men will know where their penis is located.
yeah,
I'm pretty
actually,
sure that's
now, in all fairness, I will say this.
Hmm.
I attribute that to because pretty much 90% of all men out there double check that situation probably every 90 seconds. Just, oh, yep, there it is.
Yeah, even if it's just,
oh,
yep.
Okay, there it is. Yep, we're good. Okay. Yep. Oh, no, haven't lost it yet. All right, moving on.
All right. Well, one poll conducted this poll, and they found that 46% of ladies could not point out the cervix, and 59% suggested a different body part when asked to identify the uterus. Now, in all fairness, those aren't really the vagina, but it is all kind of attached, I guess. I wonder what body part they pointed to when asked to identify the uterus. Are you shaking your head because you just don't want to go there?
I don't want to do this.
It's because your wife listens and your mother listens to this show.
That's a contributing factor. Yes.
Okay, so it gets better. It says only 1 in 10 women pass the anatomy quiz. 1 in 10, 10%. When asking them to name all the parts of a female reproductive diagram. So only 10% of the women were able to name all parts of the reproductive diagram. In Timina, I don't know what that is, the Swedish women's health company that commissioned the study. Of course, this happened in, the Swedes. Yeah. Included responses from 2,000 women. A spokesperson said the brand hoped to reveal a critical gap in American education. So these are American women.
Got it.
And the fact that nearly 1 in 4 women in the survey misidentified the vagina and 46% could not correctly identify the cervix shows we need to keep educating the public about how the reproductive system, its monthly processes, and hormonal changes can impact a woman's life, said Danella Zagar, Intimina's global brand manager, in a blog post on the website. How?
Whoa, time out. Nope. I call shenanigans. Okay. Nope, not happening.
The chair recognizes Jason Moret.
Thank you. Reserving my time. If 1 in 10, only 1 in 10 passed, then obviously it's not affecting the daily lives of women, because otherwise 90% of the survey group would actually know.
Ignorance is bliss, is what you're saying.
I'm saying the premise behind the argument, this makes the case that we need to educate women better so they can understand how this affects their daily life. Well, if 90% of them don't know where any of their own anatomy's at, then obviously it ain't affecting their daily life.
That's true. That's a good point.
I mean, if I got a foot problem and my foot hurts,
Mhm.
you know what? I know where my foot is. I know what toe hurts. I know when I step on the one side where it's at, and I know when my heel touches. I know my foot because it freaking hurts and it affects my daily life. I know it.
Yes.
But if you're asking me what the inside of my bunghole looks like, I don't know, because it doesn't bother me every damn day. It does what it's supposed to. I go to the bathroom, I sit down, we do our business. 50 minutes later, I get up and we're all done. I mean,
Okay.
it's not a problem.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Continue.
Moving on. Menopause was not understood well either, according to the poll.
Oh, really?
Yes, with 13% defining menopause as a term to describe a missed period. That's a problem.
That now,
That's a problem. While 10% figured it had something to do with turning 40.
oh no.
Who did they
No.
ask? 12-year-olds?
Honey, we're not there yet. Relax. I didn't say that. We're just reporting the polls. Okay.
Right. We're just talking about the New York Post.
Yep.
This is 100%
Oh my God.
the
There's
New
an
York
argument
Post.
coming in the Moret house. I fear,
Oh, big
so-
time. Yeah, big
Okay.
time. Yeah.
Okay.
While age is a factor, the article continues, the number does not dictate when or why menopause takes place. Well, of course. Women were divided on whom to blame for their poor understanding of their own bodies. Well, of course, it's somebody else to blame.
Somebody's fault.
Of course, it's somebody else.
Yes.
It's
yes.
if you don't know where your penis is, well, of course it's not because you made a mistake somewhere in your life. It's because somebody else failed to do their job.
If I'm sorry, if guys don't know where their penis is, that's not a dude.
Right.
That's not happening. No, I refuse. I call shenanigans. I'm going to get my
roll to disbelief.
Yeah, roll to disbelief. Nat 20. How about that?
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we're back on women blaming other people for not knowing their own bodies. 36% said their teachers failed. Well, yeah, teachers are garbage. So we've already concluded that last time. 28% resented parents. Resented, that's a very strong word.
That's a very, very, very strong word.
So ladies,
yeah. Okay, sorry. On that point, I will say that for the last, I would say 20 years or so, roughly, we have as a society overwhelmingly relied on our education system to talk to our children about sexual education, and ultimately gotten pissed off about what they're learning. I'm sorry, gender confusion was not an issue when parents were talking to their children about sex education.
No, correct.
And I'll bet you 100% of boys knew where their penis was, and at least 80% of women knew where their vagina was.
Well, I want to know why would you resent your parents? That's a very strong word. Resented their parents. 28%. You're talking that's insane.
That's close to a third of the population.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane. Of the people who took this survey and failed to identify their own bodies, 28% resented their parents. I mean, like, you might resent your parents because they took you to church, to a cult, right? I resented my parents for taking me to a cult, to raise me as a Scientologist or something like that. That I get. But the fact that you didn't understand your own bodies, I mean, come on, it's 2020. If you didn't know by now, you could have looked it up on Google. You could have Googled it. Anyway.
Well, yes, you could have Googled it.
Of course, 27% called for better public education standards. That's it. We got to give more money to the public education system, because the public education system
More money for sex
it
education.
is not teaching young women about their vaginas. So therefore, we need better public education standards, which means more money into public education. We talked about teachers being garbage, right? I mean, 36%.
No, we've never covered that.
36% said their teachers failed them, and 27% are saying, well, we need better education standards.
Mm-hmm.
Holy Christ. All right. This research shows, even though it is 2020, with Google, women don't know enough about their bodies, and as a result are not able to take an active role in their care. Yeah, but I guarantee you they're going to be telling you all about your own business and how to take care of your own business, right?
Well, and we wonder why we have an argument about how many genders there are.
Right. The article here ends with this quote: knowing their bodies and knowing how the reproductive system works gives women the power to be able to advocate for their well-being and get the support they need. Maybe this is why. Maybe
I can
this
agree
is
with
why.
that.
Okay,
well,
maybe this is why when liberal women get all pissed off, the first thing they do is take their clothes off. I've wondered that. I've always wondered when there are these leftist groups, right? These leftist women, all these feminists get together and they're bitching about something, and they get all pissed off at the man, at the patriarchy or some shit, right? And they go out into public and they stand on street corners, and what do? They take their clothes off. I have no idea why. But it's like, here, look at my boobies. I don't know why. Are they asking? Do they want people to come and point things out and say, do you not know where your body is? This why they dress down or they take their clothes off? I don't know why.
No, I think that really is purely a shock value and attention. And so when they use body paint and paint their, slogan, whether it's, I don't know, hope and change or unity now or women's right, pick a thing, free hat, I don't care, whatever it is, they put it across their boobies. and the part that drives me bonkers, and ladies, you know where I'm going and you understand where I'm at and you know it, and you're going to call me names anyway, and I'm sorry, but this is the truth. You're going to get everybody in the world to look, and you're going to get pissed off at all those guys out there looking and staring at your boo-boos and not reading a single letter of what you've body painted on yourself, and wonder why no men out there will respect you for it.
No, because we're looking at them like they're crazy. Here, the thing is conservative women, there are plenty of women on the conservative side of the aisle, and they don't strip naked when they go to protest something or when they gather together to do a march.
Okay, so let's talk about conservative public demonstrations. There's no such thing as conservative protests.
Well, that's true.
So that's an oxymoronic statement right there.
That's a failure on my part. All right, you're right.
Conservatives don't go out in masses and create chaos and hysteria. Sorry,
we don't want it. We don't want to do that.
You're
crap.
Conservative.
Yeah, we want people to leave us alone.
We get the church group out and we have a meeting at the church. Or at the convention, or at the convention center, or whatever.
When they get together, when conservative women get together, they don't strip naked. I don't understand what it is about leftist ideology that says you're protesting about something or you're speaking out for or against whatever it is, and the one thing you go to is take your clothes off. I don't understand that.
Well, no.
I want to do a social study on that.
You understand it. Everyone understands.
No, I don't. I know I don't understand it.
Stop it. You understand it. You don't agree with it.
No, I don't understand
There's
it.
A huge no, yes, you do, because you can understand. Stop it. You can understand that, and you hit the nail on the head when it's conservative or liberal. It's in the definition of the freaking terms right then and there. And the liberal idea is it has to be shocking, it has to be in your face, loud, obnoxious to get attention. Otherwise, it's not valid, and it it makes the big impact. It's all about the big splash. It's
Fair
all
enough.
about the shock value. And then you get once you get the shock and the attention, then you can say more recycling, reduce, reuse, recycle. I don't care. It does the actual message comes secondary. Shock has to happen to get your attention. Conservatives are the exact opposite. They talk about what the message is and gather momentum from that. Liberals look at the other way. We talked about this in ideologies yesterday. If you go with the conclusion, you can grab onto that, and values and principles, you just kind of shove in behind it, but you've got to get the attention right up there up front. And I'm sorry, nothing grabs people's attention like violence and nudity. There's nothing else in our culture that gets people's attention better than those two things. So to sit here straight faced and tell me you don't understand it, I call bullshit. Yes, you do.
Well,
You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like it. I don't like it. I think it's stupid. I think it's counterintuitive. I think it's counterintelligent. I think it makes people look stupid and crazy, but I can understand it.
But that's the point, right? Because if you're stripping down into the buff, okay, if you believe in something so much and you are trying to get other people educated and motivated the way you're motivated, stripping down naked doesn't do it. Stripping down, that's like preaching to the choir. All you're going to do is encapsulate the left who are already on your side. Those of us that you're really trying to change the minds of, we look at you like you got a horn sticking out of your head. Like you got, we look at you like you're a crazy person.
Okay.
And saying have some self-esteem and self-respect. And you're not convincing anybody of that.
Here's the biggest that you solved the problem, but I'm going to point it out in what you said. You talked about preaching to the choir and convincing people. Liberals don't give two potatoes about converting conservatives to a liberal cause. They don't care. They never have. Their marches have never and are never and will never be about convincing people like you and I or any other conservative-minded individual out there to join their cause. They only march to embolden and body their base, those people, because not every liberal person, every left wing, every Democrat individual is going to strip down naked and run through the streets shouting for recycling. No, they're not going to do that. But if you can mobilize and invigorate more of your base, then the conservatives over here and the other people have to go, well, they're getting really loud and really obnoxious, and they're like, wandering into traffic, and they're interfering with normal daily life. We have to do something. We don't have to agree with them. We just have to appease them a little bit to get them to, fine, shut up, now go away so we can get back to work. That's always the way they tackle this. You look at the Black Lives Matter stuff. That's exactly what they did. They didn't give two craps about how many conservatives came and started marching with them. They wanted to see how much of a mob they can create out there so that they can get the NBA to allow them to put their slogans on their jerseys, so they can get the NFL to fall in line, so that they can actually get little bits and bits and bits from all these other people to try and get them to shut up and go away. And then they just keep getting louder and louder and louder. It's never about getting the conservatives to come over to their side. It's just about creating a bigger mob.
Fair enough.
Conservatives argue the opposite way because we're dumb. We go, no, if we can just reason with these crazy people and get just a handful of them to come over here and just talk to us, because we're not crazy people. We can just talk to them and make sense, because we do things like think, we do things like rationalize, and we use things like logic and mental faculties. These are
Okay.
basic. They
Well,
should be able to come together, right? And
so
we try
hold
and
that.
convert them.
So hold that idea for a little bit, because I
Okay.
want to get into a topic. I want to get into a discussion tonight about cults. We talked
Okay.
about ideologies last week, and I want to talk about cults because I think they're
Okay.
interesting. I think they're really fascinating. But before we do that,
Yes, sir.
did you see Elon Musk? You know who Elon Musk is, right?
Yeah.
The crazy
He's
billionaire.
he's the Tesla dude.
Yeah, the crazy billionaire Tesla dude.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. He may or may not be a genius. I don't know, but you have to be a little crazy to launch one of your cars into outer space.
If I had that kind of money, I'd be launching a whole bunch of shit in outer space.
That's F off money is what he's that's what
Yeah.
that is. That's F off money. I'm gonna
That's-
launch my car into outer space just
That's-
because I
that's-
can.
That's the guy who says, "You told me I couldn't do this."
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm
Watch me
still a
bleed.
pissed off teenager with too much money at heart. Watch this shit.
Watch me
You
bleed
tell me
cash.
I can't date that person? You got it. Hey, you. I don't know your name. Come on over here. We're dating now.
Yeah. Anyway, Elon Musk yesterday, as a matter of fact, he got 4 COVID tests.
Okay.
4 at 4 different times during the day. 2 of them came back negative, 2 came back positive. I don't know the order in
I was
which
going
they
to
were
say,
coming
are
in
they
play, right?
sequential?
I don't know. That's all he said. He said he got 4 COVID tests in one day. 2 came back negative, 2 came back positive. This, and of course, to Elon's point, right? He's like, well, he said something extremely bogus is going on. No, it's bullshit. It's what it is. It's just all BS. Can we just accept that fact? This is all BS. We've talked about this before. We've talked about tons of false positive testing in the past. I mean, go back. I don't know what episode it was. It was like 6 episodes ago.
That was back in like April.
We talked about this crap and how dumb it all is and how just a turd. It's just a gigantic steaming turd pile is all it is.
Yes.
And Elon Musk is finally coming to understand that point.
Yep. It is a poop sandwich.
It is
and we're all being forced to eat it. And actually, the funny part is so many people are now freaked out. They have no idea why, but they know they're freaked out.
I know they're buying toilet paper all over again.
They're buying toilet paper like it's going out of style again.
Would you people stop fucking buying toilet paper?
Dude, seriously, knock it off.
Jesus Christ. Why are you buying ass paper? People are getting freaked out and I have no idea. Nobody knows what they're getting freaked out about. What are you getting freaked out about?
I think that the fear of an impending 6 to 8 week lockdown is
the brain hemorrhage of like, let's lock down the entire country. I'm sorry. Let's lock down the entire country for 4 to 6 weeks and give everybody pay everybody to do that. You know how many billions of dollars that would take to pay everybody? And what are you supposed to do during 4 to 6 weeks? I mean, where are you supposed to go get your groceries? So you're gonna have us do a run on the grocery stores and Walmart and Target, or are we gonna have to stand in line and get our government cheese for F's sake?
Yes. Now, I'm sorry, you call me a conspiracy theorist all you want, but I really do believe we will have check-ins online at the grocery store where we will be assigned a number and they will have a means of getting our essential items to our homes. We will not be allowed to go out. And these people that said that would never happen here.
Right.
Here we go.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Oh,
I don't think it's going to happen. I say bring it on because that sounds like a video game vacation as far as I'm concerned. I'm like you're going to pay me to take 4 to 6 weeks off of work.
I would love that, but then that's not going to happen for me.
Right.
I already got told. I actually asked, hey, what happens if because I'm doing weekly testing right now up here in this county. We're still at a moderate level. As soon as we go to high, then I'll be tested twice a week. But right now, weekly, I get tested. I said, hey, so if I pop positive, does that mean I get to go home and stay home for 10 days? He goes, well, you have to be, yeah, you have to quarantine for 10 days. So I'm off. He goes, no, you still have to work. You just got to do it from home. I'm like, dude, come on, man. I feel like Joe Biden. Come on, man. You know the thing.
Here's the thing here's what I think about this whole 4 to 6 week BS.
Okay.
I think things like that are being told to Americans who only think the country doesn't exist beyond 5 miles of their house. There are so many people. Let me explain.
That's like 80% of the population.
Right. And for those listening, most people do not comprehend the size of our country. They really don't. They don't comprehend the size of our cities. They don't comprehend how much infrastructure you would have to put in place and how many billions or trillions of dollars you would have to put into place to lock down the entire country. We're talking 300 million people, give or take, right? But we're talking approximately 300 million people across this entire nation, across the hundreds of cities that we have. And most people think they think that their whole country extends out like about 5 miles. People can't think beyond that. And so when they say, well, shut down the whole country, they're like, yeah, it's my neighborhood. That my neighborhood could be shut down for 4 to 6. No, your neighborhood cannot. And neither can my neighborhood, neither can Jason's neighborhood. And when you start expanding and realizing how big this country is, it's impossible. This is just smoke. If you're out there and you're like, yeah, let's lock the country down, would you stand back up because somebody's behind you blowing smoke in your nether regions? Stop it. Just stop it. You're laughing at me.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing at two things. So first and foremost, I just got done talking about how leftists go out and talk to their base and just want to create and here you are as a conservative already. We haven't been past that segment in 10 minutes and you're trying to make sense and rationalize to those same yahoos about why this isn't going to work. And then I go, okay, so point number 2, I know how to actually rationalize to those people. If I use the same, stop, don't. If I use the same shock and awe, I'm not going to strip down naked. But if all I have to do is shut off their trash and sewer service, problem solved. We're back to work in a week.
Dude, no, I want the 4 to 6 week. No, I want the video game vacation, man. Don't
shut off the. But the minute the toilets back up, all those liberals will go, whoa, no. This is not what we meant by shut down. No. I still need a flush out. This is BS. This is not right. I call shenanigans. That's an essential business service, and I still want all my water, sewage, trash.
That's funny you say that because I've always said the most important. I don't care what company you work in, who you work for, or anything. The most important people in any organization are the people that clean the buildings.
We talked about that when we were talking about minimum wage, and I said that about housekeepers and janitorial staff. The
most important people, treat them well, because if the CEO or a VP or a director leaves for a week,
nobody cares.
Nobody cares. If the janitorial staff, if one person on that janitorial staff is gone for a week, everybody knows it. Everybody knows it.
You got at least 3 people coming out of the bathroom, still holding onto their pants, going, "Man, who didn't put the new toilet paper back in the toilet, man?" And somebody needs to get in there and clean up. Somebody destroyed that thing, and then they're wandering down the hall to the next bathroom.
When you're in these companies, I mean, some of these corporations are quite huge in terms of the population density in the buildings. And when you have a lot of people, like hundreds of people hitting a toilet, hitting a restroom in a given hour, like seriously, you can have 100 different people hitting that toilet, it gets rancid real fast.
Oh yeah.
And you got to keep up on that. So if that janitor is gone for that day, Oh man.
Oh yeah. No, they just put the yellow tape and says out of order
Yeah. Oh yeah.
over it because there's
Right.
no
Right.
saving it. I
Right.
mean, just move
The
on.
most important people. I mean, be good to those people, treat them well. They don't get paid nearly enough. They have a better job than teachers, and two, they should absolutely be paid more than teachers because our
And
teachers
three,
are
they do it
garbage.
better.
And three, they do it better because one, our teachers are garbage and everybody loves the janitorial staff. And if you don't know the name of your janitorial staff, shame on you, because you should know them and thank them and talk to them. You don't have to just, oh, thank you for cleaning the toilet. No, get to know who they are. They're Americans. They're people, and they're, some of the best people in your organization are probably cleaning up after everybody's stankness.
Literally.
Literally.
Yep.
Yeah. Good times.
All right. Yeah.
All right. So we're done.
You got me on a soapbox, and I appreciate
right.
that.
All right.
So, what else did you want to talk about?
So I've been watching some documentary shows of late. So the first one I was watching is on this it's called, what was it called? It's called The Vow. And it was on HBO. Yeah, so it's on HBO. It's called The Vow. If you're into documentaries, I recommend checking it out. There was a company called Nexium. It's actually NXIVM, but everybody that was participating in this called it Nexium. So yeah, it's not the pharmaceutical acid reflux drug called Nexium. That's the purple pill. We're not talking about. Why are you laughing at me?
I just picture Morpheus with the red pill and the blue pill. Why, oh why didn't I take the purple pill?
Yeah.
It felt better in the morning.
Right.
Sorry.
So Nexium was this self-help. It's actually really interesting the way that it was set up, because Nexium is this central company, and then they started all of these other little companies, and it was really fostered on the whole concept of self-help, right? And we teach you things, and you overcome your fears or your anxieties or whatever, and then you get to hang out with a bunch of people that are just like you, and we sing Kumbaya, and you give money.
Recall.
Yeah, and Total Recall. And what it devolved into this like sex cult.
Okay.
Where women were getting branded.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that.
And it was craziness. So the show The Vow is all about that. So basically it was this cult that was started. And then so I watched that, and then I've been watching Leah Remini's. You know who she is?
Leah Remini's on Scientology. Yeah.
Yeah.
On A&E.
So on A&E.
On A&E. Yeah.
So now it's on Netflix. So I've been catching. So there's 3 seasons, at least 3 seasons on Netflix. I don't know if there's been more on A&E, but 3 seasons are on Netflix, and I've been watching those. And Leah Remini was a Scientologist. She got into Scientology from her mother, I think at the age of like 12 or 13 or something like that.
I think she was, Leah was born into it, if I remember correctly.
No, she talks about it on the show. That after when her mom got her into it, and she was already like she was like in middle school at the time. But because she was at such a young age getting into it, right, she got indoctrinated really fast.
Yeah.
And she attributed a lot of the success that she had in the lower levels of Scientology to launching her acting career, which really sort of solidified her for a number of years. And then she got out in 2013, and she's been going around and interviewing various people. We're probably going to have Scientologists. I mean, by saying the name Scientology, I'm sure they're going to like come out of the woodwork and start following you and I and harassing us and digging through our garbage and everything, because that's what they do. So Leah she partnered up with this other guy. His name is Mike Rinder.
Right.
He was a big time Scientologist.
Very high ranking within the echelon of the Scientology. order.
He was an
Yep.
executive. He
Mhm.
he was like the hammer, man. He was the enforcer. He would go after people who were talking bad about Scientology, or he was responsible basically for tearing down um, if there was like a reporter, for example, who was going to do an article on Scientology. Mike Render was basically the guy that would come out full bore, guns blazing, tear that reporter down, and throw everything that we got at him, so that they don't publish it. He was that
Well,
kind of. He was an executive.
Mike was one of the heads of that division. I think it's important to point out
Yes, yeah, the
Mike
org,
Mike
that
would go
org.
out to that, but as far as the Sea Org goes, he actually was high enough up that he had a lot of people that worked for and reported to him in that
Division, org,
division
whatever. Yeah, yeah.
within the organization. So
Yeah,
you got
he
you
was
got
like he was an executive. He was an
yep,
executive member. So I mean,
yep,
it's kind of structured like a corporation. So if you think
correct,
like an
correct.
executive member of the board, which is what Mike Rinder was, I mean, he's got a host of, he's got, I don't know, you know, dozens, maybe 100 people behind him that he's sending out, and he's doing all of these things here, right? And he's the guy that was the face of Scientology, talking about a lot of this, going out on camera to basically say, no, that person over there is crazy, we don't do anything weird.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, he's maneuvering all kinds of chess pieces on the board to bring these reporters down and stuff like that. A really fascinating guy.
Yeah.
So you've watched some of the show.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What did you think of it?
I really did like it. It was one of those that I was watching on occasion. My wife and I were watching it, and I said I wanted to start it from the beginning, so I'm kind of glad it's on Netflix so I can start and kind of get caught up on some of that. It got a little bit I don't want to say it didn't get repetitive necessarily, but I mean it was in the sense that you're dealing with the same organization, the same craziness, the same cultish mentality, the same indoctrination of all these people, the same fallacies. I warned last week, I was talking about be very cautious when you have a cult desperately seeking to get government to recognize them as a religion, because that gives them all kinds of liberties and freedoms and removes a lot of the scrutiny out there. And Scientology is one of those who was able to put enough pressure on to actually attain that. That's exactly what they did. Because they are recognized as a religion, and it removes a lot of the I guess oversight in some of the illicit things that they're doing in there. So I liked the show. It got to a point where it was almost too much. I'm like, I almost can't handle any more of this. To think that this kind of stuff actually exists within my own backyard is almost, it's almost too much. Um, and then I think it was off the air for a little while because, well, the season had ended, and I never really got back into it. But
Well, it's funny, when I started watching the show, I just hit play on Netflix, and I didn't realize that Netflix had the way that they published the show. They publish it in reverse order. So in the season drop down, season 3 is up at the top, and then it goes 3, 2, 1.
oh,
So
so
when
you've been watching it backwards?
I started watching it backwards, right?
Okay.
And so I started with season 3. I had no idea it was season 3. I was just like, oh, this is, uh what's her name from King of Queens, right?
King of Queens. She was
Um,
actually in Saved by the Bell too.
Yes, there was a picture of her in Saved by the Bell in the show. I never watched it. It was a little bit after. I never watched Saved by the Bell.
You you what?
I was I was at that age where I was past it when Saved by the Bell came out, and so I wasn't watching. Yeah, I know. But so
Okay.
what's interesting is because I jumped in on season 3, they had already talked about Mike Rinder. So I didn't know who this guy
Oh, so
was.
you
And I was
didn't
like,
well, it takes you a couple episodes to start figuring out when he's talking with some of these people
yeah,
who have escaped. And they call it these are
literally escaped.
escapees
Right,
from Scientology.
right.
Um and some of them actually said, I knew damn good and well who you were.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And there's been a couple people that he's actually gone and interviewed who were people that were targets of his.
Yes.
And
And they said, you destroyed my life, Mike.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's crazy.
it's crazy.
But what was funny though is like I didn't know who he was, and I'm like, who is this guy, and why is he hanging out with Leah? And I'm like,
Mhm.
he's just some like guy who was a Scientologist. I don't understand this. And then I realized I was like halfway through season 3, so then I went back and started with season 1, and I started watching it. Well, the first few episodes of season 1 really dives into who he is. And I was like, holy shit, this guy was up there. This guy was into
Yeah.
it thick. He was like,
Yep.
he was in Scientology for like 46 years or something like that.
Mhm.
And then I had a lot of respect for him. As
Sure.
an individual and what he's gone through, and how he turned his life around. And he has 2 kids that are still in Scientology that he was disconnected from when he left the organization. But so there are some things in. So I've always thought L. Ron Hubbard was a wackadoodle. I've always thought that.
I okay, all right. So L. Ron Hubbard, I have some affinity for. Now let me qualify that before you go cray on me. All right, so hang tight. He he's a science fiction novelist.
Yes.
That's who he is.
Right.
That's what he was.
Yes.
I believe he wrote the outline for Scientology. And go with me on this for just 2 minutes. I need you to just keep coming. I don't believe for a friggin' minute he really thought that people were going to take all of this, swallow it, and really go through and do what they're doing based on what he wrote.
Defend that. Hold on. Defend that. You got to defend that.
Hold on. I am. Don't interrupt me. Let me get there.
All right. We'll get there.
As a bear poking kind of guy,
okay,
I absolutely 100% believe he had somebody next to him and go, you know what? I'm going to do this just to see. Watch this. I'm going to do this. And he literally wrote this out and hit poke on the button. He poked it just to see who would bite into it so he could sit back and laugh. I think it's the exact same mentality that some of these abstract painters are that Paul and us, we were talking about.
Yeah.
You know, that grab poop and throw it on a canvas literally and then smear it around and go, let's see who's going to buy that for $10 million and go, oh my God, it's sold. And you guys are so dumb. I can't believe it. I really do think he laid that out there as a big middle finger just to see how many stupid people would buy into it and totally live their lives by it. And I think that guy is rolling around in his grave laughing his proverbial butt off right now because of it.
See, I don't think that. I think he literally knew that he could get people to buy into that. I think he believed that people were dumb. I think he believed that people were looking for something, which I think is true. I think the vast majority of people are looking for something to fill their lives. I think he did it because he was a complete and total narcissist, and he found that he was a failed sci-fi author, and he wanted to get rich. And he knew that he could get rich doing this.
Okay,
so I don't think he was poking the bear. I think he was serious when he was doing it.
I agree with all of that up to one very, I guess, very important differentiation. I don't believe he bought into any of that. I don't believe that he bought into Scientology. Really. I believe that, yes, he thought people were dumb. I believe, yes, he thought people were desperate to grasp at a straw, and if he threw them a bone, that they would buy into it. I believe that, yes, he was a terrible science fiction writer and thought that, yep, he could throw them enough, just slivered with enough truth that it would make sense that he could get rich off of it. I believe, yes, 100%. Do I believe that he actually believed his own bullshit? Not a chance. No way.
Oh, well, yeah, I think he didn't believe his own bullshit. I think he knew that he absolutely knew it was bullshit. But when he knew that people were throwing money at him, he went all in. And I think he was a full-blown narcissist, and he craved that power, and he realized that he had tremendous power over people's lives because of this as a religion, and he took full well advantage of that. Now,
And this is exactly the kind of person, and this is what we talked about. So speaking of Paul, when we talked about artists and why I said why
yeah,
I hate artists,
yeah,
this is what I'm saying. This is the type of person. They don't believe anything out there, but they're gonna spin a yarn and tell you, oh yeah, this is that, and look at all this, and look at it this direction, and that's why my poop swatch on a piece of canvas is actually worth the money, and I'll take it. That's the absolute artist BS, and that's exactly what
oh
I
yeah,
put. I put him in
yeah.
that exact same category.
Yeah, when I was looking at Nexium and Scientology, so there's a couple of things that I thought were interesting
Okay,
about both of them. They
you
both
made
seem
parallel correlations. Go ahead.
well, yeah, parallel correlations. So the first thing is that both of them were founded on this concept that people want to be a part of something larger than themselves. I absolutely believe that.
Okay,
They were also founded on something that a lot of people feel that something is missing from their lives, and they don't know what it is,
hmm
but they're looking for not and they're not looking for something tangible. They're looking for meaning in the world.
sure.
Okay. And
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 there's a
so
lot of organizations that
true.
not prey on that. That's not fair. But that seek to try and satiate that need within humankind.
Right. Right. The other thing about that I think both are kind of genius in the way that they set up the organizations is that, so in Scientology they have this thing called the bridge,
Mhm.
and you pay shit tons of money to go up the bridge, and to get higher and higher. You get to a state of clear, and then you go on even further, and you get into the OT levels, the operating Thetan levels, which is a bunch of bunk. It's ridiculousness. And you pay like 300 to $500,000 to attain OT8 in
Right.
their lingo, which is the high level there. Um, and in Nexium, they had a similar type of structure, but I thought theirs was a little bit more brilliant. They have this other company called ESP. I think it was called ESP. I'm almost positive. It was like executive something, something. I don't remember. Um, but but it was like it was ESP was like the company for like self-help. It was like how to improve your life and how to become a better human being and person, blah blah blah, right? And when you join ESP, the instructors, they wear different colored sashes, and when you go as an initiate, as a first time person, they give you a colored sash. Okay, so you pay like $5,000 and you attend this week-long seminar, and you're there for 8 hours a day doing this particular seminar, and you get a sash, and it's kind of like the belts. Think of the sash of like the belts in karate, for example. So the higher you go in rank, the different colored belts with maybe stripes on them or something like that. And different colors mean different things, but they also determine how invested you are as an expert in this whole thing. And that's, I mean, these two things, these bridges and these sashes, is kind of a genius thing if you think about it, because it's a form of gamification, right? So
Uh-huh.
I'm if you're there and you're like, well, I want to be that color, or I want to go, I don't want to just the white color anymore. What do I got to do to get a different color? Because this screams newbie color, right? So how do I go up, right? And as humans, we're kind of naturally predispositioned for like taking one more step, climbing the ladder, taking one more, and just getting a little bit. Well, what's on the horizon? Following that carrot of, well, if this stuff is really cool at the white level, what happens when I learn the yellow level or the green level or the orange level, right? And that's kind of genius. It keeps people engaged, and it gives them
Well,
something to look forward to.
so the natural tendency of society is to develop an own hierarchy of power and divination of
Yeah.
abilities.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way society's always gone. You know,
Yeah.
even when you're trying to create a quote unquote class neutral society, that's a bunch of crap. It doesn't exist, because
Correct.
even if you
Correct.
were to wipe all of that out, um absolute anarchy will ensue, but natural order will try to align, and you will have people who rise up and take some sort of power, and then, assign deputization of others. And so naturally there's a hierarchy of society that always exists. I mean, it's part of our nature. And philosophy, you learn about that if you go through psychology at all. There's always there's a hierarchy of needs within the human being, from birth, and there's a hierarchy of society based on us as human beings. So to actually put that at and then monetize it, well, yeah, I'll take the cheddar
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that. Yeah, you just keep paying me. I'll move your little color, or I love the taekwondo way of life. You have a white belt, and then you got to pay for a white belt with a yellow stripe, and then you
Right.
pay for a
Right.
white belt with another yellow stripe. Well, once you get three, then you get to go to yellow belt, and
Yeah.
then when you get to yellow belt, then you got to pay for your next three green stripes, and it just keeps going. From
Right.
martial
Right.
arts is no different than, but you take
Right.
that anywhere.
It's no different.
So
It's no different. And they promise the same thing, right?
sure,
Taekwondo promises, you go to these dojos and they're promising, you're gonna get physically fit, you're gonna be more in tune with your mind and body
with
and
greater
spirit. And
enlightenment comes
yeah,
greater
yeah.
power.
And
Ooh.
and they're selling all of this stuff, right? And while I'm watching this, I'm watching this, and there's a part of me that's thinking, well, shit, this is what Jason and I are trying to do for people too, right?
Whoa,
Without the
whoa.
money, right? Without the money.
Oh, I was like,
If
what do you? No, I was like, wait. We just got branded a cult. The fusion. You
right,
know
right.
what? That's actually not very
That's
far
actually pretty
off,
bad,
because
right?
I mean there
Badass,
was
right?
everybody else out there. By the way, if you don't know, just so you're very well informed,
Uh-huh.
if you have ever posted anything in support of our current president, you are now part of the cult of Trump. Did you
Okay.
hear about this?
No, I haven't. I'm off Twitter. I can't.
Oh no, this is actually the mainstream media has been talking about this for quite a while. The cult of Trump. So,
Okay.
you have to look into that. I'll
Huh.
drop you a little nugget.
Okay. But
Okay.
but my point when I was saying, like, Jason and I are trying to do this, we're trying to, I mean, there's this we talk about it. I talk about it at the beginning of every episode, right? Where what we're trying to get people to become better thinkers,
Mhm.
right? So that they can live a happier life. And when you look at Nexium, when you look at Scientology, that's essentially what I think his name was Keith Raniere. Keith Raniere was the guy who started Nexium, and L. Ron Hubbard, the guy who started Scientology. And I'm watching these two shows, and I'm thinking, we're like, how far away are we from becoming a narcissistic cult leaders? Like, that's not what I want to be.
I'm sorry,
Like,
when you say how far are we away, are you
well,
referring to you and I?
well, we're in this together, my friend.
We are light years away from that. I will
Well,
do that
no.
for you
What?
so that you
Let me
can
let
have
me
some peace.
let me explain that, right?
Okay,
So
please do.
they always, there's these adages like, there's a fine line between love and hate. Okay,
Uh-huh.
as an adage. So if you love somebody, then you're a fine line away from hating them. Okay, in essence. So at what point is there, and I'm thinking while I'm watching these shows, I'm thinking, like, is there a fine line between wanting to legitimately help people become better at something and implementing a cult? Like, is there a fine line, or are we talking a Grand Canyon line, distance
Well,
wise?
okay, I think there's two very important distinctions, and I think we're in a very opportunistic place to point them out as examples. Since you're using us as an example,
Yeah.
I will humble us enough to be able to answer that. Two very big points. One, the monetization of the message.
But why is that
Our
bad?
No, I'm not saying it's bad, but in
Okay.
order, I believe, to make that leap to where it's not the Grand Canyon, but it is the fine line, the monetization gap has to be breached. So if we are offering said education at no charge for free without any compensation, I believe that is a very large gap. Okay, so that's my first. That's one. Number two, influence. We do not have 12 million views on any of our episodes on YouTube. We have 12.
Right.
I think that is a very big gap that we have to breach if we're going to be equated to any kind of cultish idea or
But
influence.
okay,
So,
but here's the thing though. Like with Nexium, they probably would have only had 12 if they were on YouTube. They never got to the size of Scientology. But Keith Raniere made a crap ton of money on having a core group of about 100 people behind him. Um, and and I think it's very easy to. And so, when I was thinking about it, I thought, well, okay, how different is that than from a therapist, right? Who helps people get to a certain part in their life, and they charge money for that, right? If you and I were to take a bunch of the BS that we talk about on this show, and we said, hey, let's write a book about our thoughts and put it down there, and we sold it, right? Now we've essentially monetized it.
sure.
Now, I
still have to have people buy it, though.
right. Yes, you still have to have people buy it, but there's but I don't think monetizing something is necessarily bad. I think
No, I'm not saying that.
Nexium, and I think even with like Nexium's $5,000 course, $5, the intense course that it was, and if you watch the vow, there is a lot of really interesting things that they're talking about that ESP provides people in terms of value that I look at it and think and thought, those aren't bad ideas. They're very helpful for people, and I could see why people get bought into them. And even charging $5,000, I didn't necessarily think that was necessarily wrong, but at some point it does become wrong. And I guess that's kind of where I was kind of trying to figure out, like, is it one of those kinds of concepts where it's obscene when we recognize it, right? We don't know, we can't really define. It's hard to define something that's obscene. It's easier to say, well, I'll know it when I see it, right? So
Well, and it's easier when it's the monster. When it's in its genesis, in its infantile stage, it can seem very innocent and or harmless. So it's not until it becomes the monster that you have to deal with does it seem overbearing.
well, and the same thing with Scientology. So before there are these courses that that you take before you actually get onto the bridge, and they're the introductory courses to the bridge. And a lot of, I think I would probably say all of those courses, there's like 9 or 10 of them. Each of those courses only costs like $30 to take. And each one actually I've never taken them, but they actually sound like, well, that doesn't sound so bad. Like, that sounds interesting. And I could see how that gets people involved in it. And so if you're taking one of these courses and it's like $30, okay, great, no problem. I think where the issue becomes is when you stop valuing the person and you're using the person as a means to something else. So L. Ron Hubbard used people as a means to get rich, right? If what you're doing is to provide value to people so that they can become better people, then the people should be the ends to that. And yes, there's going to be some money. I get it. If you're doing this full time, you need to pay for your mortgage and provide for your family. And at some point that becomes obscene. And at some point there's this balance where now you're taking advantage. When you start telling your parishioners, like they call them in Scientology, when you start telling them and demanding that they have to take out a second mortgage, and they're like, well, I can't afford it. And you're still that's a problem. If you're like, hey, we've got this class here, it's $2,000. We believe in it. It does all these great things. If you don't want to take it, you don't take it. I think that's a lot different.
Well, and I'm not necessarily arguing with you, but I think that is a very easy position for you and I to take, being from the outside of that organization, looking into it, knowing it for what it is as well. If you were to flip that and go to any other, now, I don't know that any other religion actually charges people the kind of crippling debt that Scientology does. I don't know how to really equate that or to give a lateral example, but when you're in that and you believe that is, I talked about this last week, when an ideology becomes part of your moral fabric to where it defines who you are as a person, that you aren't anything without it. See, and that's where things like that become something inhibitive for me. It's not even necessarily the monetary obligation. It's saying that you as a person have no value outside of the dogma that I am charging you for and forcing upon you. That you're actually redefining human beings' individuality. That's where that actually crosses the line for me.
Sure. I mean, when I was watching these, I was thinking, corporate trainings, for example, can be a lot of money. I mean, I've taken corporate training classes that were a week long, and they cost $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 to attend.
Mm-hmm.
And you're learning skill sets to advance your career. All that Nexium did, for example, with their ESP program, was they charged a $5,000 coursework for 5 days intensive training, so to speak, for the purpose of gaining new skill sets for managing your life. And I think, well, there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. Do I think it's pricey? Yeah, I think it's pricey. But there were obviously people were finding tremendous value to it. And I think if it would have stayed there, I think that would have been fine. I think it's when it becomes that all-encompassing, okay, we got to keep getting the money, right? And every business is going to come up with, even a corporate training company is going to come up with new trainings, right? And this is how they start, right? They have,
Sure.
You can go get a project manager certification, and you're going to have to take probably 5 to 7 separate courses that are about $8,000 a piece, 5 days full. So you're gonna end up spending about $40,000 just in the coursework, but hopefully you're gonna be in a company who's gonna pay that for you, but you're still gonna spend about $40,000. And at the end of that, you're still not gonna have your certification. And then you're going to have to do all of these other hundreds of hours as working as a project manager. And then you're going to have to pay for the ability to take an exam. And should you pass the exam, which there's no guarantee that you will, then you will be bestowed with this this certification, this piece of paper that says you're now a certified project manager. And there are all kinds of different certifications. So we see this all the time in the corporate environment. And then of course, those certifying bodies, what do? Well, they come up with all kinds of additional trainings for continued education, because your certification's only good for like 2 years.
2 years. Yeah.
And you got to get continuing education credits to, so that you can re-up your certification. And then you got to pay money for those classes. And then you got to pay money to recertify, right? And it's this constant thing, but we don't necessarily label those as a cult, because people are free to leave at any point. but is the revenue generation the same as something like Nexium or something like Scientology?
Well, and the other thing I look at too is those. So you use the corporate world or the corporate mentality as
Yeah.
a parallel. The corporate mentality, that's where I go to actually get all of my money. So that's stuff that I work for. I have an immediate return on that investment, even
Sure.
if I'm
Yeah.
not the one investing it. So I think that's another big separation of difference. The other thing is I look to organizations and all cults. So I'm not picking on Scientology in particular, although they're probably the easiest one. Um, I don't feel like I owe the corporation everything I have in my life. And so I'm just paying that back to them. That's a big disparaging difference for me too, because you see that indoctrination of mindset that everything good in my life and all of the good is not only worth the investment, but I actually owe it to them for what they've done for me. Um, I know there's a lot of the I'll use a Scientology example again. Gosh, now that you brought it up, it seems like I got a bunch. But they have these banquets and balls and it's like the Oscars
Yeah.
for all of the charity and all of the people saved and brought out of poverty that Scientology has done. And these people literally treat it like the freaking Oscars. They get dressed up, they bought, to the nines, they pay tens of thousands of dollars for tickets, and they go and fill these amphitheaters filled with thousands of people to show up and basically clap for all of the achievement that all of their money and all of that stuff has actually gone to. And guess what?
They don't do it.
None of it's happened.
It's all a
It's a
lie.
bunch of crap.
It's all a
They
lie.
just throw numbers up there like, oh, we saved 9,000 people, and they go, oh my God, that's what my $100,000 donation or
Right.
attrition went to this year.
Right.
No, it didn't. None of that's ever happened. Ever.
Right. But okay, so you said something that was really interesting. You said, like, even though you might get a certification through your work, at least you go back and you can see and start reaping the rewards of that immediately. But I could make the same argument in a personal life situation. If people are seeking these things out because their life is essentially in a state of chaos. And when they go through a 5-day course at Nexium, or they go through they start climbing the bridge in Scientology, what they're doing is they're essentially looking at their lives in a different way and realigning their lives so their lives are not so filled with chaos anymore. And when that happens, people are like, hey, this is really working for me. This is having immediate benefit in my personal life. So they're still reaping a benefit, just not in a corporate world where they're getting a paycheck, but maybe they are to a degree, because if their life is less chaotic, then their work life is probably going to be less chaotic as well. But there is some initial value there. And so that's kind of where that's why I was looking at, I was thinking about this, and I'm trying to figure out at what point does a legitimate organization turn into a cult? Because let's say we were to take this, let's say we explode and we have thousands of listeners, then and this were to become a full-time job for us. Well, we have to keep producing something of value. We might even monetize a portion of the show at some point, right? We could get to that point so that we could stay on the air and make this a full-time job. There are people that have done this, right?
Yeah.
So are you creating a cult in doing that? I think you have to constantly be balanced. If that were to happen with us, you and we would have to if we got to a point where we were monetizing the show, and we got to a point where we were able to quit our day job and do this full time, we would need to constantly be balancing each other and making sure, hey, are we still acting ethically? We're not, because I don't want to, while I would love to do this full time and get paid to actually do this, at the same time, I don't want to be lying to people and stealing money from them. I want to give them something of value and they say, I'm willing to pay for that. And here's what I'm willing to pay. Like, it boggles my mind to do like a 5-day hang out with Jason and Lucy for 5 days and pay us $5,000. Like, to me, that's redonkulous, right?
Yeah, and honestly, I think this is a good opportunity to really point out if there are any rich uncles out there in the sound of our voice who really do
Absolutely.
believe that this is a value and that we could do. Please,
Invest.
by all means, drop us a line. Let's talk. We can definitely build this up. Do I think that we are in danger of creating a cult?
No,
No,
but you know
no.
what I'm talking about, right? I mean, I'm
Sure.
using this
No,
as an example.
I understand the fine line. And you know, okay, so let me take a different direction, see if I can I will take a valued profession that I think is a total quack, absolute racket, and
Okay.
that is therapy. Now, before we get all worked up, let me qualify.
Qualify.
Therapy. I know people who go to psychiatrists, psychologists, or there's another ist out there, but in the therapy realm, I contend that I can help 90% of those people in 2 minutes for half the price in one session by simply smacking them across the face, kicking them in the ass, say, knock it off, get your shit together, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, and get your own life together. Nobody else out there is going to make it better for you, but you take charge of your life. Get out my office and please pay Betsy on the way out. Would you please? Next.
This is
And
why you're not a
probably
therapist.
this is exactly why I'm not a therapist.
Just so
I
that
don't know
we're
anybody
clear.
out there who has ever gone into therapy, who has seen real benefits from it and then quit. Every person I know that praises therapy for what it is
Mhm.
has said, I go see a therapist regularly. I still do. I always will. That to me borders more on a cultist indoctrination than anything else.
I
You
agree with
keep
you.
people right along the on the cusp of being able to take control of their own lives and see progress and do better and pay gobs of money for it, but not enough that they can actually break free of the shackles of one person telling them how to do everything.
I agree with you. I think so. I think there is a lot of value in therapy. I think what people value in it is the ability to go into a situation where they can really talk about who they are as a person and let it out, and they feel comfortable with that particular person, and they know that that person is going to hold everything confidentially. um, and most people they don't have anybody in their life that they can do that with. Even a friend or a family member, there still isn't enough trust. Let's face it. I don't want to be going to any of my family and telling them my deepest, darkest secrets. Are you kidding me? Those people are insane. Right. But I think a lot of people are in that boat. They just want to be able to go to an environment where they can talk about everything that they're thinking about and feeling. And most therapists, unless there's a real psychosis, most therapists don't actually tell them what to do. They just ask them questions, use mostly as a Socratic method to get them to see their own way, right? But people are willing to pay for that.
I have always said I would make an awesome therapist.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes, I would. I would
No,
totally
you
go,
would not.
uh-huh. And tell me, why do you think that is? Mm-hmm. 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 And how do you think you handled that situation? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. What do you think you could have done better? Oh, okay. And all right. Well, your hour's up. I'll take 10 grand now. Thank you.
So you would be a
That's a
terrible
job, man.
therapist. No, you would be a terrible therapist because your face speaks so such volume. It does. Like it just talking with you, I'm like, what now? Right. So you would make a terrible therapist. but I do agree with you. And that is something that I thought about. I couldn't help but thinking about that in terms of therapy, in terms of therapists, psychiatrists, or psychologists, or whatever, or even a life coach, for example, or a career coach. If you're doing that, right? It's there. You want those people to keep coming back. They're your source of income, but it has to be on their terms, never on the therapist's terms.
Yeah, but every therapist says, okay, same time next week.
Well, of course they're going to
Please pay
say
Betsy on your way out.
but when I say it's on your time, it's on the therapist. What do you call them? The client.
The patient.
I don't want to call them the patient. I'll call them the client.
Consumer. Is that better?
It has to be on the client's terms. Not, yes, the therapist can say same time next week, but if the client says no, I'm done, then the therapist has to say okay. And
oh no, every therapist out there would go, well, are you sure that's wise?
I think in some situations that would occur. I think some situations it would be warranted, especially if somebody were suicidal or, they're still, but again, but I think this is where most psychologists or psychotherapists or whatever, to their credit, I think a large majority of them are trained in ethics, and are there. Don't look at me like that.
I'm
See,
listening.
it's your face. It speaks volumes. There's this fine line that has to be balanced, right? And you, as a therapist, yes, in certain circumstances, it's okay to question and say, well, I think that you're not fully done yet, but it still ultimately has to be on the client's terms. So if the client comes back and says, yeah, I understand you don't think I'm far enough along, but I'm telling you I'm not coming back, then the therapist has to say, yeah, okay.
Well, and in all fairness, like I said last week when we were making a parallel, or I did, between religion and a cult. One of the things I said is, and just like an ideology, a religion, if you say I'm done, I'm out, you can go. A cult, and to a point, I would argue even ideologists or ideologues will say, no, you cannot leave.
Right.
You're not
and I think
allowed.
that's key. I think that's key.
And that's the ownership of the individual.
Yes, so. I think that's totally key. And does every therapist do that? No, probably not. I think there are some bad therapists that probably browbeat their clients and keep them to stay, and that's unethical, and they shouldn't be therapists. But I think there are a lot of therapists that do a lot of really good for people, and it should always remain on the client's terms. And I think that's why I think that's why it's okay. Why are you laughing at me now? It's because you think 100% of them are quacks.
No, I really do think. See, and this is where what I was talking about with L. Ron Hubbard, why I actually have some aspiration in that regard. I'm really tempted to start Jason's thumping therapy on YouTube. I'll do it on YouTube. We'll do it we'll do a video chat, a Zoom thing, and I'll just start it up, and I'll just go, and how do you think you handle that? Yeah. Well, and I'm reminded of that anger management, if that movie. Well, and how do you think you handle that? Not as well as I should have. Yeah, you think so? And I'm just no qualms about it. I'm gonna let everybody know. I'm going to browbeat you for how you handled stupid shit, and I'm going to browbeat you. So come in for your beating, and move on. It's only going to be $25 a session, and they're at 15-minute increments.
Well, see, I think the vast majority of people who go see a therapist for whatever reason, it's simply because their lives are in a chaotic state, and they need help, whether it's talking it through with somebody, but they just need help getting that realigned, and usually that doesn't take long.
No,
that usually doesn't. To your point, it doesn't take long.
It doesn't. Is your life in chaos? Yes. Why is that? Because I got nobody to talk to. Well, get a freaking friend, get a freaking clue, clean up your goddamn room, go to freaking work, pay your bills,
I hate
give
you so
your
much.
wife a kiss, and get the frick out of my office. Please pay Betsy on your way out. Next.
I hate you so much.
God, no. You know what? You got me on the soapbox. You started it. I'm going to end it. The fact of the matter is, if we're talking about therapists, I think that is a big part of the problem with our society today, is that most people have not had enough parents. And I love my mom and dad for raising me up what I think is to be at least mostly correct. Everything else that's wrong with me, it's not my mom and dad's fault. It's mine. Sorry, Mom. It's my fault, not your fault. I am the way I am because of reasons and stuff and the thing and the place.
I've met your mother. It is your fault.
Thank you. There you go. Love you, Mom.
Yeah.
Most kids have not had their parents go, no, it's not your teacher's fault. It's not your friend's fault. It's not anybody else's fault. It's your freaking fault. You fix it. You take responsibility for it. Clean it up your damn self and move the frick on. Quit acting like a prepubescent child. You're 21 now, still living at home. Get your together and get on with your life. Life is not going to hand you everything. And you look out at everybody out right now, everybody's looking for their freaking handout and their excuse on who else to blame for everything else going on wrong in their life. Nobody's taking responsibility for what's wrong in their own life that they have the power to fucking fix.
Now take a breath.
Okay.
Because I want to throw a monkey wrench in your equation. You think that's just what people need to do. And I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. What about people who just want to go and say, here's everything that's going crazy in my life. I don't want you to even ask me how I should have handled it because I know I'm the one that's supposed to take care of it. But I just need to get it off my chest because humans are naturally social people.
Absolutely.
And they just, rather than keep it all bottled, they just need to tell somebody.
Sure.
So what if somebody were to come to you, Dr. Jason, Dr.
Sure.
Moret,
yeah,
and they were to sit there for an hour and all they're doing is they're just venting all of their frustrations to somebody who they can trust to hear it, knowing that, yeah, at the end of this session, I got to go back out there, but this is my timeout. This is just my timeout from my world so that I can come into a place and I can just let it all hang out. And I'll give you the $25, Dr. Moret, but I just need somebody to hear me. I need somebody who's going to be on my side and be in my corner when I go back out into the ring to battle everything that I have to battle. But I need that timeout in between rounds, and you're the guy in my corner.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing. I get that phone call all the goddamn time.
Right. So, and
I get that from my friends.
Right.
I get that from my
and you should
brothers.
be a therapist.
I get that from my my son's godfather. I get that from I get that from you.
I was waiting for that.
And I think people,
they need that.
Yes, absolutely.
Everybody needs that.
I call you up and to just vent, and I get your voicemail every time. But so I call somebody else, but I get that. 100%.
So I'm so terrible. I'm such a rat bastard.
And I so love you for it, because you have to understand, if it does not ring and go straight to voicemail, I know your phone's off or you're in a meeting, you've got it on do not disturb. When it rings twice and it goes to voicemail, that is the swipe. F you, dude. I'm too busy right now. I know exactly what that is. So I move on and call one of my other buddies and I go, hey, I need to just vent for a minute. Everybody needs to do that, and
You
everybody has friends to do that.
You called me 2 times the other day. I think it was 2 times in the same day, of which I had back-to-back meetings all day that I was
This is not
facilitating.
look, this is
I
not an
know.
issue
Yeah,
of
I'm
you
not.
don't
I'm
need to
not.
make excuses.
Right.
And really the public listening to us doesn't really care. They already
They don't
know
give a
who you
crap.
are.
They don't
No,
care.
they know.
Yeah, they don't
Yeah,
care.
Dr. Ramirez, he's too busy. He's got an MD behind his name. Bloop, ignore.
But see, I think the vast majority of people who seek therapy, and the vast number of people that went to Nexium or go into Scientology, they're just looking for that underlying thing to help them take control of their lives, or at least, if nothing else, help them realize that it's in their capability to do that. Just like the vast majority of people who go to therapy, they just want to vent and walk through it and go through the process of thinking out loud. They need to think. We've talked about this before. People are terrible at thinking. People are off. We are awful. And the best way we think is by talking. So we need people to talk to think through what we're experiencing. And that's where therapy really comes into play. But therapy has to do it on the terms of the person seeking therapy, not on the terms of the therapist who's doing that.
Okay. Anybody else out there in the sound of my voice, this is awesome. If you want to ever know how to shut Dr. Ramirez up, just agree with him. It totally deranges his train of thought so bad.
So much. Scientology, there were people, you mentioned earlier that there were people that were like escaping, that had to had to escape. There was one episode on that show where a woman literally escaped. Like she escaped the compound in the trunk of a car, because otherwise they would just grab her and take her back. And you can't leave. I think that's another aspect of the cultish mentality is you're not allowed to leave. You're not allowed to live your life. You're not allowed to have friends that are outside of the cult.
Yeah, and even if it's not you're physically being held against your will, it's the fear of what may happen to you, even if it's socially. Should you attempt to leave? You made reference before about Mike having 2 kids in Scientology. They have disavowed him. And it's not even, you have to understand what this means. Okay. So imagine you're a father of 2 children. Every parent has had the fear that my kids are just not going to talk to me. That's not quite where we're at. I'm talking about disavowing the knowledge of your existence.
Right.
When you leave this particular cult, people who were your friends, your acquaintances, your family, cease to recognize and acknowledge your existence. Now think and so let's take it from the other perspective. Imagine you're a kid whose parent has left. You are now disavowing the existence of the person who gave you life. The fact of your existence now almost takes on an immaculate, spontaneous conception ideology because you have no parent.
It's called being disconnected. So the term in Scientology is disconnected. So they have to disconnect from you. Here's what I don't understand. Here's where the logic breaks down for me. If I were a Scientologist.
Okay.
Why are you
No, you just talked about this in that level of crazy, which everybody listening to me is going, Jason, you're freaking cuckoo cachoo. There's no way that's a real thing.
It is a real thing.
And it is.
It is
and
a
then
real
you
thing.
just said, here's where the logic of this breaks down. So yeah, sorry for the upside down face, but go ahead, please.
So here's where I struggle with the whole concept of disconnection. Scientology exists based on what L. Ron Hubbard wrote and what Scientologists are taught from the word go, right? they're taught that Scientology exists to save all mankind, to save all of humanity.
Mhm.
Okay. And they talk about it, about making the planet clear.
Mhm.
Clearing the planet is what they say, right? And when they clear the planet, that is essentially getting all of humanity to a particular stage of psychological control, where they are full control over their being.
Right. They
Okay.
cleanse the negative thetans out of
Yes.
existence.
Yes. So if, let's say you were a member of Scientology, let's say you and I both are, okay, and you say, screw this, I'm done, this is a crazy thing, and you leave, the expectation is that I'm supposed to disconnect from you, and I'm
Yes.
supposed to look at you as an enemy of the church.
Yes.
But my mission is to clear the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So my mission should be not to give up on you. My mission should be,
No, that's not where that's at.
why?
Oh,
Why would
so
I want to clear? Why
I
would I want to clear the planet but not include you? Why wouldn't I want to just say no? I need to have Jason reach the state of clear. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to go and kidnap you, but I shouldn't.
Mhm.
I shouldn't. Logic tells me that I should not disconnect from you. That I should still remain in a relationship with you, so that I can convince you through my own daily actions that you leaving the church was a bad thing, and you can come back. Shouldn't it?
Well, and again,
Am
I
I
love
off
that you
base here?
bring logic into this. It's all cute. Well, yes, but so the actually this plays on a religious concept. Okay,
Okay. All right.
so in all fairness, you know, there's references in the not only the Catholic Old Testament Bible but also the New Testament, the Christian Second Doctrine Bible, where God has pity and mercy upon the ignorant. Okay, so if you have not been um, exposed to or introduced to God, the concept of God, the being of God, you are essentially saved by his grace. He does not pass judgment on those who have never known him. Okay? That's the idea. So if you've never known anything of God, on the day of judgment, you will be spared you because of your ignorance and by his grace. Okay, so we take that and put that over here. So that's the majority of the world who has not yet been introduced to and known the Scientology truth. Hold on. However, the deepest bowels of hell wait for those who have known the truth and turned their back on it. Now, that's where those people who have left Scientology, they go to that place. There is no saving them. They have seen the truth and turned their back on it. There's no redemption for them. The only clearance or clearing of them is literally by their passing and not affecting anyone else in their existence, especially those who are in the Scientology faith.
But there is no hell in Scientology. How
No,
could they go to a hellish
they
place?
die and they go away. But that negative, so okay, so if you want to talk about Scientology just for a second, so everybody can grasp kind of where we're at. People don't really exist. We're just kind of like big bottles, like water bottles for positive and negative energy. And they call those things thetans. Everything in the world is positive and negative energy that got released when the big spaceship of Zenthar or whatever the hell it was crash landed.
Xenu, get it
Oh,
right.
sorry,
On
Xenu crashed.
DC-10s, flew
Okay, there you
here.
go. Well, you know way more than I do, but cool, good for you.
And no, I'm not making this up.
No,
Like when
this
you
is
get
actually real.
when you get to OT3 and you paid 300 grand to get to the level of OT3, you learn about Xenu the Galactic Warrior and how Thetans were brought on DC-10s in space airplanes. I kid you not. They
This
were
is
brought
real.
to the United States, or brought to the world, the Earth, and then there were like volcanoes and shit. and the enemy atom bombed them and blew them up. I'm not making this up. You learn this at OT3, and L. Ron Hubbard said you have to get through OT3 very quickly. Yeah, no shit, because usually if you hear that, you're like, wait, I just spent all this money for this? Like,
Yeah.
but,
I
but
spent money to learn that Xenu, the galactic space warrior, came over here and spread all this energy out.
but see, there's a point there that is slightly amiss,
Okay.
because again, if you were to leave the church and I disconnect from you, I cannot clear you.
No.
But even if you die, you're going to be reborn, because Scientology believes that we as humans have existed in many other
Hmm.
lives, and we will exist in future lives. And
Yes.
so we will be reborn. Like you could die and be reborn to be my father in my next life, for
Hmm.
example. That's how these people think. So if I clear you, then I save you. Or do I just kick the can down the road and disconnect from you?
Yes.
I'm just trying to rationalize that in my head, because if I'm a practicing Scientologist, right, and I believe in this crazy crap by L. Ron Hubbard, and the whole purpose of this is supposed to be a scientific religion,
Hmm.
right? So I should be thinking this in terms of, well, why should I disconnect from him? I want to keep him so that I can try to clear him.
Yep. Well, and again, I if you have seen, know, or been exposed to the truth and turn from it, there's no saving for you. The only hope for you is in a next life we can start anew. And hopefully in this life, we expose enough people so that by osmosis and sheer influence, there's a better chance for you next go around.
Now,
There's
what's interesting is there are parallels here with the Jehovah's Witnesses.
okay.
And when I was a kid, my mom got into the Jehovah's Witnesses and by default pulled me into it because I was a little kid. I didn't have a choice in the matter. Um, and so for a number of years, I remember going to Kingdom Hall, and I remember doing Bible study all the time, and I remember going to the big conventions. I don't know what they call them, but they would literally rent out a football stadium, and Jehovah's Witnesses come from all over the place you know to these football stadiums, and for 2.5 days it's like pure torture. It's attend church for 2.5 days. It's
Yep.
as mind-numbing and depressing as you would think that would be. uh and there are a lot of practices in the Jehovah's Witnesses that I see in Scientology. They talk about this us versus them mentality, where they really
Mhm.
they build these walls. Jehovah's Witnesses do this. They build this wall around themselves, and they say, well, we have to save the world, but at the same time we're separate from everybody else. And they talk about um, people who are outside. They refer to their religion as the truth, in quote,
Mhm.
that's the truth. So anybody who's outside of the truth is worldly. And so you're taught very early on that if somebody's not a member of the truth, then they're worldly and they're to be avoided. And that always never made sense to me. Like, why should I avoid them if the whole point is to bring them into the fold?
Well, and I am not as familiar with the Jehovah's Witness practices or religion or dogma enough to lend too much into that. You could probably answer that better. My assumption would be that if you associate outside of the sanctum of believers, you could be led astray
That's the whole point.
outside of the truth.
That's really
And
where it comes from.
only in a position of strength where multiple of you may traverse the wilderness
Right.
of the world
Right.
are you able to shine the light and influence others to be attracted to you, to which you could then bring back to
Right.
the inner sanctum of truth.
Right. Right. And that's really what it boils down to, is they don't want their people to interact in the world or talk to worldly people, because, well, you'll go astray and you'll leave the religion, because they don't want you to leave the religion. They need to keep you, as close to them as possible. Um, and to me, that just speaks of a religion that can't stand on its own. It speaks to a cult, that its ideas are not good enough. If you cannot challenge or question the beliefs of your religion, then those ideas are not strong enough.
Right.
Like if the ideas are really strong, then any religion should say, you know what? Yeah, you should take a break from us. You should think about what we believe in, and do that on your own and challenge and question it.
It's interesting to me when you look at religions, cults, organizations, or when you hear that one of the principal ideas is that your family, your daily life, your work, those things should come first. I mean, that's rare. If you talk about a cultist mentality, it's actually quite the opposite.
It's the reverse.
It's the absolute reverse.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's so you were making a parallel about you and me and doing what we're doing right now. I don't think there's any question that this is secondary to our lives. No, I don't mean secondary in the amount of importance that I think this can and has and does hold, because I think what we do is important. Do I think it has the overwhelming influence to kind of take over for us? No. Do I think it's possible?
I don't know.
Maybe.
But even if it did,
cool?
right?
That would be awesome.
But even if we did have people giving us money, our message would always be, your family, friends, life come first. We'll always be here.
Yep.
So even if we're charging $5,000 for a 5-week class to hang out with us, right? Do your family and friends first before you come and hang out with us. We'll still be here.
Absolutely. Yep.
I think we would continue to operate that way.
And that may seem like a kind of silly stipulation to put on something like that, but I think it's overwhelmingly important in the idea of what priorities for everyone should be. Any organization that prioritizes itself over the individuality or the individual lives of the parishioners is probably not something you want to be a part of.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There was one time, it was years after I had left escaped Jehovah's Witnesses. I was never baptized in the religion, so they didn't have as deep of a hold, and I was only a kid while I was in it. But I remember my mom had remained for a number of years, and she eventually got baptized into it. And she to this day, she's still a very devout Jehovah's Witness. And a number of years ago, I had asked her some questions about her faith. And the whole point of that was I wanted her to do some self-reflection on those questions and just think about it, and what her faith and how those questions filtered through or shone light on her faith. That's what I was hoping, right? I would hope that she would kind of reflect on that and come to some new or different conclusions about things. And the first thing my mom did, because she's a good little Jehovah's Witness, the first thing she did was she refused to think about them on her own. She called up one of the elders of the church and said, "I need to talk to you." Guy comes over to the house and has a whole Bible study, and they are able to work through the questions together. So she did it with she did that whole thinking with an elder of the church, and then told me about that. And I'm like, you defeated the whole purpose, because you're a heroin addict. And when I'm asking you what value heroin brings, your first call was to your heroin dealer. And your heroin dealer came over and told you what the value of heroin is. Of course you didn't do anything with the questions.
I asked you what value therapy has brought to your lives, and you call your therapist.
And you call your therapist. You completely,
Wait, mate, no, bad parallel. I'm sorry. I shouldn't do that. I apologize. I'm going to get off that.
So
I asked you what good public education has on your life, and you called your teacher,
oh
and you got a voicemail, and you left a message. You're still waiting to hear back.
yeah, garbage. We should create t-shirts. Garbage should be one t-shirt, just like, in big letters across the front. Little cat.
That's 2
garbage.
T-shirts now. We've said we were going to make.
What was the first one?
Jew donuts.
Judo.
Yep. We just got booted off YouTube again.
Jew donuts. I want another one that says qualify, because you said that earlier, and I said qualify that.
Qualify that.
Qualify.
That's a good one. I like
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
Qualify that.
Yeah. Nobody would buy them, so we would only be able to order 2.
Well, that's fine. We keep our order volume small, keeps our overhead under control. You know what? I will be giving those T-shirts out to every first time therapy thumping session on Jason's Dr. Moret's corner, therapy corner. So any new patients want to sign up for Jared, my thumping,
I hate you.
Get to qualify that T-shirt.
Yeah. All right. Well, any last parting words before we call this one done?
No, I think we had a good time tonight, and I don't know if we talked about the overwhelming or overarching impact or dangers that cults have on our society today, or any parallels between ideology or cultist behavior or anything else. But it was an interesting discussion, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely.
You got me on a couple soapboxes tonight. I haven't done that in a while, so thank you.
Well, there you go. Well, as always, remember you can find all of our stuff at fusionunderground.net, including all of our podcast feeds if you just want to access them directly, or if you have an app on your phone or whatever, you can go to these locations. But we can find us on Anchor, Breaker, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, and Stitcher, as well as the Apple iTunes store. We are on there. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/AZ Fusion Underground, YouTube channel, Fusion Underground. I want to say we're on Twitter at the FU Brothers, but
soon coming to Parler.
Soon coming to Parler, yes. So what's funny about Twitter is I can go out there, I can scroll, I can see certain things, but I can't post anything. So, and I don't know why. So
you do know why. I mean, yes. You don't have this specific instance as to what, but you retweeted, posted, liked, or something about some sort of election fraud, and you've been blocked.
But in the past, so I have been put in Twitter timeout before, in Twitter jail, and they told me why I was in Twitter jail, and they told me how to rectify in order to get out of Twitter jail. This, I get nothing. So I don't know why I'm in Twitter jail, so I can't make any changes. So I just said, well, screw it. I'm not going back to your site until so every once in a while I'll go out there. Nope, still can't. So I just shut it. I just closed it. So anyway, that's where you can find us. Maybe we'll be on Facebook. I don't know if they continue to censor us. We'll see how that works out. YouTube.
What was that Facebook? The precursor to Facebook, was it MySpace?
Yeah. Hey, they didn't censor anybody.
There we go.
You put anything out there. Yeah, might have to see a resurgence.
We might revisit of MySpace.
Great. Anyway. Oh well. All right. Well, for Jason Moret, I'm Manuel Ramirez. You've been listening to the Fusion Underground. Good night, everybody.
Have a good night.